Alright, so I have a bit of an interesting story for you all that has taken place over the past month and a half, and it has actually contributed to my 4-week hiatus that I just came off of. This is the story of how I got fired at my brand new job on my second shift. So I'm walking into a gap year to pursue content creation as a full-time job before I go to college. And part of the agreement with my parents over this time was that I was going to help pay for the bills. To be able to do this, of course, I need to have a source of income. I've been eyeing this one place for the past year or so now because I've really wanted a job there, as it seemed really fun and it was right up my alley of expertise. I finally quit my previous job in March of this year and applied for this new job in the middle of May. Once my application was submitted, I heard back from the hiring team saying that I would now go through a sequence of interviews, one online and one in person, which is completely understandable. The next day, I hopped in my suit and sat at my computer to do the online interview. Although this wasn't your typical Zoom call with a manager, this was a recorded interview. They asked me 8 questions through a video, and then I had to record myself giving my answer in 2 minutes or less. I've never done one of these before, nor did I know that they existed, but I submitted the interview with confidence. Days go by without hearing a word from this company. I thought I had been rejected, but it's a common courtesy to inform an applicant of their rejection, so I was a bit confused as to why it was taking so long. Soon enough, it had been 10 full days without hearing anything back, so I got understandably fed up and went into the store to ask personally what was going on. They checked my application and asked me to come back for an in-person interview in 48 hours. I was very excited now that the ball was rolling again, so I came back in 48 hours in 95-degree weather while wearing my freshly cleaned suit. I sat down with one of the assistant managers of the store and noticed that he had a packet with him. This packet was probably a reference sheet to some questions that they needed to ask and to collect my basic information. As expected, he got my information and wrote it all down, and then he began to ask me the questions. However, by the second question, I realized that I was being asked the exact same questions that I answered on my recorded interview. In the moment, I gave the same answers as I did online, but looking back, this meant that they didn't have my recorded interview, and maybe not even my application, and this wasn't a good sign. He continued writing down key points to my answers in the packet, and once I had answered all 8 questions, the interview was a success. I was asked to come back one last time to meet with the general manager of the store before getting offered a position. Before I returned to the store for my last interview, I was reached out to by a different assistant manager who oversees the financial aspect of work. He asked me to fill out my I-9 and W-4 forms, which for all non-Americans, these forms basically allow me to work and get paid. But I was having issues accessing those forms through the applicant website. This issue persisted for days, and I ended up giving him photocopies of my IDs since he claimed that he could do it himself, although I was very skeptical. I came back again 2 days later in my suit and I sat down with the general manager. I gave him my resume and noticed he had the same packet as the previous interviewer had. However, this packet was blank, not full of the notes that my previous interviewer took. The interview began, and I once again had to give my basic information. Then I was asked the exact same 8 questions from my online interview and my previous interview with the AM. I've done 3 interviews in which I was asked the exact same 8 questions. So now I have a lot of red flags. Why did it take so long to receive a response from the hiring crew to the point where I had to go into the store and ask for an interview myself? Why did I do an interview with the assistant manager when he can't even offer me a position? Why did this store not receive anything regarding my application or my video interview? And lastly, why was the packet not given to the general manager before my interview? Like, did he not know I had an interview with his assistant manager 2 days prior? I really don't know. To be completely honest, I was a bit pissed. I still wanted the job, so I still went forward with the process, but I was really underwhelmed by the store's management and sheer neglect to my time. I was offered a job and I accepted it. I started 3 weeks later due to graduation and wisdom teeth removal, and I was a bit reluctant to go in on my first shift because of the previous experience I had with them. I did my first shift, and at this point, my I-9 situation had still not been resolved. But no one had reached out to me about it, so I didn't really have a worry. I came back for my second shift and began training on the registers. But 2 hours in, I was pulled aside by a different assistant manager to check up on my I-9 status. We went into his office and he asked me to sign in. I put in my credentials, and the system said, "User not found." We tried resetting my password, but that wasn't possible because my user didn't exist. After nearly an hour of phone calls with HR, we went to the assistant manager that previously interviewed me and had him look into the issue. After 15 minutes of digging, he found my profile, and right next to my name, it said terminated. I had been auto-terminated from their system because my I-9 was either lost in translation or never completed. I'm assuming the latter. I was told that I would be contacted by HR to recomplete my I-9 in 48 hours, but 2 weeks passed and I heard nothing. Now my whole family is upset. I kept my schedule wide open so that I could work, but I couldn't because they couldn't send an email to me containing an empty I-9 form. After 2 long weeks, it was finally resolved. I went back in for my 3rd shift, but practically my first real shift on the 10th of July, and it was horrible. The job was a drag, the coworkers were sloppy, inconsistent, rude, and lazy, and of course, the managers were not doing their job. I walked in the next day and quit. Literally on the spot. Now, I'm jobless, but I probably just avoided a bullet. Now, I know that was a long story, but here's what I took away from it, and I hope that you can get something out of it too. First, not everything is what it seems. I know that sounds cheesy, but some things that seem to be the golden opportunity or oh, if I just had that, then life would be perfect, are not going to be what you'd expect them to be. I had no idea that this would be as bad as it was, and it can be like that sometimes. But just know this, something that is wanted will never fully satisfy you. Second, know your self-worth. I was in a call with my graphic designer, Hague, for multiple hours a few nights ago, and for a solid hour and a half, he just pounded the idea of self-worth into my brain. He told me that you should value yourself and the good that you as a person have to offer rather than the dumb decisions that you made in middle school or how you messed up on a project. If I had no self-worth, I would still be working for this company. But I value myself and my time to the point where I don't want to put up with their crap. You have to know that for yourself too. Understand that you are valuable and that the people around you love and care for you. Maybe not everyone, but someone is out there that appreciates you. Lastly, be the better person. My dad was helping me throughout this whole entire situation, and I told him that I was going to quit by phone call. The place is 30 minutes away, and I didn't want to spend an hour and a half of my day just to say I was quitting. But he told me to be the better man. Do what is right, and if you don't know what is right, ask someone who would know. When I walked out of the office in which I told the managers that I was quitting, the general manager started tearing up and sniffling. Why? I had impressed him with my interview and how I was handling the situation. If you can strive to be the best version of yourself, or even just a better version of yourself, then you're gonna go a long way in life. If you enjoyed this story video, make sure to let me know in the comments, as I'd love to make more of them. Subscribe, and I'll catch you all in the next one. Peace out.